Hey guys, last time we used ChatGPT in our previous episode. Today, we're going to talk about how you can use it in your e-commerce shop. Stick around to learn the 411. Welcome to eComFiles. We started this podcast to help e-commerce store owners to be successful and reach financial independence, but most importantly, build momentum and have an impact without burning out on the way. We're going to cover everything from marketing to operations and everything beyond. Let's get started by talking about how you can use ChatGPT for your e-com shop. Sebastian, how can you use ChatGPT for your e-commerce store?
Well, I think maybe we should start earlier. Maybe we should start with what ChatGPT actually is.
That's a great idea. Let's go back to the origin story.
Not quite that far. ChatGPT is a language model. And actually, why don't we ask ChatGPT itself what ChatGPT is? Let's see if I can manage to share my screen here. What are you? I'm getting a bitrate warning here. I hope that's not going to impact the quality of this podcast. But what ChatGPT says there, it is a large language model.
Okay.
And the rest is really not that important. But what a large language model is just basically a mathematical formula. It's a formula that tells us if I take a bunch of words, and really it's operating on tokens. Tokens are partial words, on average 3/4 of a word. So if you take a bunch of these tokens and string them together, the large language model tells us which token is the most likely to come next. And it does that by looking at all the content it has consumed during its learning phase. And that's really, during its learning phase, is one of those really important pieces there, because the learning phase ended in 2021.
Okay.
So anything that happened after, it has no idea of or about. And in particular, it cannot go and look up things. All it does is, based on what it has read in that learning phase, what is that, 2 years ago? It calculates the probability of what the next token, really what the next word is.
Very interesting. So basically, in the current state that it's in right now, it doesn't have access to real-time information on the internet.
It doesn't have access to real-time information on the internet, but also it doesn't have something that we would call understanding.
Okay. Okay.
And that is something that I keep running into. Like if I ask it to write a description, it writes a perfect description for a perfect product that often has nothing to do with the product I ask it to describe.
Oh, okay.
So it is.
Now, would that be referred to it hallucinating, or is that in regards to just it following a framework?
Well, hallucination is something that people call something hallucination if ChatGPT makes up facts.
Okay.
And like, for example, if you ask it for a link, you ask it for a reference, it often gives you a list of really nice looking references of books and articles that never have been written.
Gotcha.
That is what I would call hallucination.
Gotcha.
Writing a really good description of a product. I often have the feeling that ChatGPT is trying to tell me, if you had done your homework, you would have created this product and not the one that you asked me to describe.
Okay, I see.
So I wouldn't necessarily call that a hallucination, but it is very similar.
Okay, got it. Got it. Very interesting. So, I mean, you bring up a really good salient point there as far as a potential use case, as far as leveraging ChatGPT for creating product descriptions to improve your visibility in the search engine page results. And that kind of piggybacks what we talked about last week as far as using SEO. Would that be a good use case for ChatGPT in the state that is currently in, or are there some issues that you're suggesting?
There are some issues, and one of them is of legal nature.
Okay.
Let's ask ChatGPT, can I use your content? Let's call it publish. Can I publish your content? Publish your content under my name.
Yeah. Information educational purposes only. It should not be published under your name or presented as your own work. Oh.
So there we run into a legal issue. And while ChatGPT takes a pretty strong stance, the actual law is quite unclear. So if an AI can claim copyright or not has not been decided. And depending on the country you are in, it might go the one or the other way. So it's risky.
Okay.
The other thing is, because of those hallucinations and made-up facts, you probably don't want it to write your content anyway. But what it is really good at is doing that homework that you have to do before you write.
Okay.
So
in regards to brainstorming, research,
brainstorming,
ideation.
yeah.
Okay.
Like, what should I include in an Amazon product description for a wine glass?
Wow.
So it gives you a framework of what you should think about. And then if you give it more detail about what your wine glass is about, like my wine glass is made of stainless steel. Then it goes into more detail about what you should include there.
Wow.
And by the way, that pop-up here, that is Grammarly, not ChatGPT. Okay. Grammarly now has an AI assistant too, so it would like to rewrite what ChatGPT just wrote.
So we got AI working against AI.
Yep.
Okay, so Sebastian, before you go forward, it's very interesting what you just explained there, because you talked about this being a language learning model.
Yes.
What you just did there was you're basically training ChatGPT to have more information, more context on the information that you need for the research that you needed to give you, basically, right? Refining the information.
Yes, in a way. However, training is a ambiguous word there, because ChatGPT does not learn.
Okay.
ChatGPT learned in 2021. It does not learn anymore.
Got it. Okay.
But what ChatGPT does is it looks at the history of your conversation. And to be exact, it looks at a fixed number of tokens in your history. And what that number of tokens is not published. My assumption is it is 8,000 tokens, which would be roughly 6,000 words.
Okay, interesting.
So whatever it, as well as you wrote in the last 6,000 words will be used in the calculation of what the next word should be.
Wow.
But that is all the learning it does. So yes,
if
it writes something that you don't like or that isn't exact enough and you give it more content, it will use it and it will generally produce a better result because of it. But I would not call it training or learning.
Okay. I think that's a very important discernment there as far as it, learning based on the prompts that you're giving it, not based on the information that's available out there only to 2021. I think that's very important. Okay. That's very good to know. Okay. This is fantastic. So as far as the early stages, as far as in preparation and the planning and the research and the ideation for, let's say, for example, your product description and you wanted to improve your visibility, you recommend using ChatGPT at the current state.
Yes. So there's one other thing. We talked about SEO in the last episode. And SEO requires you to write a lot of content. You want to attract the audience that will want to buy your product. And that the easiest way to do that, and we haven't really talked about that yet, that's one of the next episodes, is to provide content that answers problems that audience has. So what do you call people that are traveling around in RTs? In
RVs?
In RVs, yeah.
I would say they are, backpackers.
Backpackers usually don't have an RV that they own.
RV. Maybe, they are adventure seekers.
Yeah.
Hikers. Travelers, cross-country travelers.
Snowbirds. Not really. RV enthusiasts. Let's use that term.
Okay, I like that.
Van lifers. That's a good term. So I just used that example here of a product description for a stainless steel wine glass. And I think in one of the first episodes, I talked about what the two audiences are that might be interested in a stainless steel wine glass. And one of the audiences were the van lifers.
Yes.
And so how do you attract them?
You got to appeal to them, right? You got to appeal to their lifestyle.
Yeah. One way is to help them solve their problems. What are common problems van lifers experience?
Wow.
So now I have 5 ideas.
Wow.
For articles that I can write to attract this audience.
Wow.
And it's a very, very high level overview. So now I can go into more detail.
Right.
For number 5, give me 10 article ideas.
Wow.
Now I have 10 articles.
Wow.
Again, that will attract this audience. And if I publish those articles on my website that also has my e-commerce store, now I'm attracting that audience, and then they're more likely to stick around and buy.
Wow.
Much more likely because you just help them than if you just were to attract them with a good product description.
That's excellent.
And I can even go a step further. Let's say, van life and personal safety, what do you need to know? For number 3, give me 10 talking points.
Wow.
And now I have a framework for the article to write.
Wow.
And you can even tell it a specific formats that you want that to be in, like the, what do you call it? Well, not that important, but depending on how you want to structure your article, you can tell it that up front, and it will take those talking points and put them in that format. Now, I can also ask it to write a 1,000-word article using these talking points.
Wow.
And it does that fast. However, now we are getting into those concerns.
Yes.
With hallucinations and legal questions. Yes. And sometimes it stops in the middle when you just say continue.
Okay.
So I'm not sure I would do that. But if you give those talking points to a seasoned writer, they're going to be very fast writing this too. Not quite as fast as ChatGPT, but they probably can put that out in half an hour to an hour, this article, basically.
Wow. Wow. Sebastian, this is mind-blowing, man. I mean, I'm sure people are watching this right now. They're just kind of, blown away at what you just showed them. This really can cut a lot of time, especially in the initial phases.
Yes. Not only in the initial, all along.
Yeah, throughout the whole process. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Well, Sebastian, I think this is an action-packed episode. I think you summarized everything really well as far as how we can use ChatGPT. You at least give us a great entry point, right, for us to explore. And we want to thank you guys out there for showing up. We hope you found the information today valuable. If you have any comments or any questions, please leave them below. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. Sebastian, like always, any last words?
Should I ask ChatGPT? No.
We'll do that next time. We'll do that.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Well, as always, thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.